What if I told you that Priscilla and Juma just may be building something much bigger than we are seeing right now? Because while everyone is busy watching their relationship, weddings, outfits, and celebrity lifestyle, something else has been quietly happening behind the scenes. Priscyluxe is expanding, African Boy is growing, and both brands are carrying something very important, an African identity. But here's the question: could these two brands actually become household names across Africa? And wait until you hear the reason why I think they might have a real chance. Priscyluxe is already creating attention. Let's start with Priscyluxe. What makes the brand interesting is that it isn't simply being presented as another celebrity owned business. Priscilla Ojo has been putting a lot of attention into the visual identity of the brand, from the packaging to the colors to the presentation and the way the products are displayed. There is a clear attempt to make Prisciluxe feel like a lifestyle brand. And that matters because when people buy fashion products today, they are not only buying the product itself, they are also buying the experience, the image, and the feeling attached to that brand. And Priscilla seems to understand that. Then came Ghana. And this is where things become even more interesting. Priscilla recently took its pop-up experience to Ghana, and the response generated plenty of attention online. The images from the pop-up showed the products, branded packaging, and customers shopping. And then came the sold out moment that got people talking. For a growing brand, moments like this can be extremely valuable because they create social proof. When people see others buying a product, talking about it, and sharing it online, curiosity naturally grows. Someone who did not know about Priscillus yesterday may suddenly ask, wait, what exactly is Priscillus? And that is how conversations around a brand begins. But why does African expansion matters? This is probably one of the biggest reasons I think Priscilla has an interesting opportunity. Africa is not one single market. There are different countries, cultures, languages, and fashion preferences. So if a Nigerian founded brand can successfully attract customers in another African market like Ghana, that is worth watching. And imagine if this continues. Nigeria today, Ghana tomorrow, then Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, and other African markets. I'm not saying that will automatically happen, but the possibility is there. And that is what makes the story interesting. Now let's talk about African Boy. Then we have Juma Juice and African Boy. And honestly, the name itself is already a statement. African Boy isn't trying to hide its African identity. It embraces it, and that could actually become one of its biggest strengths. For years, African creatives have been looking for ways to take African culture, fashion, and identity to a global audience. A brand that confidently says Africa can potentially turn that identity into its biggest selling point. And Juma Juice already has something that many new brands spend years trying to build: an existing audience. His music career, fashion presence, and public profile give African Boy a level of visibility that a completely unknown startup wouldn't necessarily have. But again, celebrity attention alone isn't enough. The real test is whether people continue buying the products because they genuinely like the brand. Priscilla and Juma Juice could be building two different identities. And this is where I think the story gets really interesting. Priscilla's and African Boy don't necessarily need to compete with each other. They can actually occupy different spaces. Priscilla's can continue building around feminine fashion, luxury presentation, and lifestyle. African Boy can continue developing around African identity, men's fashion, and contemporary African culture. Different audiences, different aesthetics, but both connected by one powerful idea. African brands with global ambition. And that is a very interesting space to watch. But here is a big question. Can they actually become Africa's next biggest brands? That is where things get serious. Because social media hype can disappear very quickly. A brand needs consistency. It needs quality products. It needs excellent customer service. It needs smart pricing. It needs distribution. And most importantly, it needs customers who come back again and again. Going viral once is easy compared to building a brand that people trust for years. So the next stage for both Priscyluxe and African Boy will be very important. They can expand beyond celebrity influence. Can they build loyal customers? Can they enter more African markets? And eventually, can people recognize the brands even without immediately thinking about the celebrities behind them? That is the real test. The bigger African brand movement. But regardless of what happens next, I think there is something exciting about seeing African celebrities invest in businesses that can potentially grow beyond entertainment. Instead of only being known for music, acting, or social media, celebrities are increasingly building businesses around their personal identities. And if those businesses are properly developed, they could create jobs, encourage local production, and give African consumers more homegrown options. Imagine walking into a store in another African country and seeing Priscilla or African Boy sitting alongside international fashion brands. That could be a serious statement, not because they are celebrity brands, but because they have become African brands recognized beyond original markets. So could Priscilla and African Boy become Africa's next biggest brands? Honestly, it's too early to say, but what we can say is that both brands have something worth watching. Strong personalities behind them, growing visibility, and a clear connection to African culture and fashion. And if Priscilla and Juma juice continue building beyond the hype and focus on quality, consistency, and expansion, who knows how far these brands could eventually go? But now I want to hear from you. Which brand do you think has a bigger potential? Priscilla or African Boy? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to Luluberry Damsel TV, and turn on the notification bell for more celebrity, fashion, and African entertainment stories. See you in the next one. Bye.